Climate Change Affecting U.S. Crops by Nick and Josh. Introduction. Our topic is about climate change and how it will affect the U.S. crops. Our article is called Climate Change Impacts on U.S. Crops by Elodie Blanc and John Riley. The article talks about changing climate and increasing temperature and the need of adaptation and to improve farming practices. What the future looks like. With a changing climate and a need for more food to feed a growing population, the future looks challenging. The need for adaptation to climate, advancement of technology, and more efficient practices has never been higher. Within the next 100 years, we can expect to see changes and adaptations in almost all aspects of U.S. agriculture. Main drivers: temperature and precipitation. Rise in temperatures is expected to bring extreme heats, which most U.S. crops like corn, soy, and cotton would not be able to handle, especially in parts of the country where levels of precipitation are expected to decrease, like in the Southwest. It would cause yields to decrease and a need for newly modified seeds or a replacement crop that can withstand more heat and survive with less moisture would be necessary to sustain agriculture in that region. Extreme weather. Economics. Extreme floods, droughts, storms, tornadoes, and heavy downpours destroy farmers' crops. When farmers have crop insurance, it puts great strain on banks giving out loans and crop insurance firms. Agriculture. If the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, or IPCC, weather forecast predictions are correct about extensive and extreme weather, farmers' crops will be destroyed in most cases and will likely obtain little to no yield. Finding stronger crops and better varieties will be essential in the future. Irrigation. In the U.S., it is expected that the northern part of the country's crops will continue to rely mostly on rain-fed water. The more southern states, however, will need to do a lot more irrigation as droughts and extreme heat sink in. This will likely cause a huge demand for fresh water, and eventually a price on water will be naturally created or set by the government intervention. Indirect effects of climate change. Economics. Economics. A main factor in the section would be the carbon tax being reintroduced to many farmers. Many taxes is extremely brutal and challenging for farmers. Because of this, farmers might cut back on spending and not spend as much on equipment, expansion of farm, or crop inputs, thus causing lower yielding crops. Agriculture. With higher temperatures means quicker drying of soil temperatures. In regions where rainfall is likely to increase, this will cause more runoff and water pollution and affect fisheries and the rest of the aquatic biomes. In drier regions, the transportation of water for irrigation will cause more combustion of fossil fuels and will contribute to the greenhouse gas emissions, which cause things like carbon tax. Adaptation and its impacts. Economics. By adapting effectively, farming practices can be enhanced, making farming more efficient. This might mean selecting certain crops that will grow better in the geological area. With more of one crop being produced, the demand goes down, lowering the price with it. Other farmers may look to expand their irrigation systems farther than they had previously, making irrigation equipment more expensive. Farmers may start using better crop rotations, which will expand variety in the market of different kinds of grain to be bought and sold. Agriculture. Farmers will be forced to adapt to a changing climate. They will have the choice to move their operation to a more suitable part of the country, which would be costly, difficult, and unlikely. The second option would be to change their practices according to the weather, which is not ideal, but it is the better option of the two. Changing what crops you grow according to weather would be an option, or using modified varieties more suitable for your climate to gain higher yields would be a more immediate and likely temporary option. A changing climate will undoubtedly cause farmers to spend more money and will be a stressful time, which could affect the farmer's health and lower productivity. These are just a few of many impacts that adaptation will have on the U.S. farmers. Limits to adaptation. Economics. There are limitations to what can and cannot be done to adapt to the climate change. Besides the agriculture side of things, it can also be impacted by finances, political ideologies, and religious ideologies. Agriculture. Only so much can be done physically and financially by the farmer. If if temperatures get to the extreme that the predictions say they will, without adaptations the climate yield without adaptations to the climate, yields will fall to an all-time low and crops will continue to fail. There will be a need for subsidies, grants, and any help from governments as possible. Technology and equipment. Economics. With the need of more technology to produce good crops, farmers will need to invest more money in ag equipment. By doing so, the demand for farm equipment will increase. As ag dealerships recognize this, they will also increase their prices, making machinery more challenging for farmers to obtain. Agriculture. With the world's population growing so rapidly, there is a need to get more yields out of less land. Products like GPS in the seeding equipment allows the most efficient amount of seed to be put in the ground. It decreases the amount of overlap and double seeding, which saves farmers money and wastes less seed. Also, the technology behind GMOs is a key factor in gaining higher yields and is a huge reason farmers can still sustain a living in this shaky economy. U.S. exports at risk. Economics. With less crops being exported out of the country, that means U.S. may have to import crops, which means smaller GDP for the U.S. and higher prices for the consumers in the U.S. Agriculture. If farmers can't get the yields they need to sustain a business due to climate change, they will go bankrupt and be forced to shut down their operations. This means they will have no crop to sell, causing a decrease in supply and failure in the exports market. Conclusion. Now that we have discussed the impacts of changing climate, the need for adaptation, and improving farming practices, we have a better understanding of what to expect the future to hold. The importance of starting to prevent all these issues coming in the future is huge. It would be easier to start coming up with strategies and solutions now before the problems become problems. If the agriculture sector works collectively together as one, there will always be a future in agriculture because agriculture is the future.